evangelist comes from a word meaning bringing the good news. So I brought the good news of Macintosh, making people more creative and productive. I am bringing the good news of Canva, how it will make everybody a better communicator because they can create great graphics. So that's what an evangelist does. Now, a salesperson is primarily concerned with his or her income, quota, and bonus, but an evangelist is concerned also with the well-being of the customer, the opposite person.
What's up, everybody? You're listening to the Hustle and Flowchart podcast with your boys, Matt Wolf and Joe Fear.
And we're rolling. Guy, thank you very much for being here with us today.
My pleasure and honor and privilege.
Yeah, man. I mean, Lisa Beyer, I got to give a shout out to her. She's a mutual friend of ours, and she hooked us up with the connection to you. And she's like, "You're gonna love Guy. Everyone in the community is gonna love him as well. So have a chat."
And here we are.
That's right, my
Here we are.
Yeah, I think I saw you speak at Blog World Expo, which I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. But back in, it had to have been around 2011-ish, maybe, in LA. And ever since I saw you speak, it was around the time I think you did you had a book called Ape or APE.
Yeah.
And I think it was around the time that book came out. And ever since we saw that presentation, I'm like, man, I want to get him on the podcast one day and interview him. So this is
here we are.
A full circle moment for us.
You sure waited long enough.
I know, right? We just found the right people. We asked the right questions.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you just have such a fascinating history, and to you are not a guy where I'm like, tell us your story, because like it's gonna probably take a while. So let's not do that. But have you perfected the 30-second like, hey, if no one has ever heard of Guy, how would you present yourself?
Oh man, if I can't do an elevator pitch of myself, who the hell can? Right?
That's a good point.
Okay, so you starting the clock? How long?
I'm grilling. Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Okay, so my name is Guy Kawasaki. I'm chief evangelist of Canva. It's an online graphic design. It's an online graphic design service from Sydney, Australia. I'm also the creator of the Remarkable People podcast. I used to be chief evangelist of Apple, and I was on the board of trustees of Wikipedia. I'm also the author of 15 books.
That's amazing. And so the chief evangelist, the evangelist term, I know that's the constant that has basically translated in everything you've done. And you basically coined that term.
Well, there was Jesus before me. Don't forget.
Good point. Good point. He was pretty big.
There was a 2,000-year gap.
And somehow, Guy, you took the title, and ran with it. I love it.
It was a tough act to follow.
Well, I mean, you're writing a lot of books, so you got that check mark of it too. So.
Yeah. Well, the Gospel according to Guy.
There you go. A wise guy, right?
Book 1, yeah.
Well, speaking of that, are you working on others? Because you have 15 books. Last one was 2019, I think.
14 times I've said I'm never writing another book.
Right.
So I don't know how the hell I wrote 15 books.
Is there
if you had told me in 1987 when I did my first book, you're going to write 14 more, I would have told you you're nuts. But I don't think I'm going to write another one because I like podcasting so much. Ooh. And I like podcasting more.
Tell me about that, because that is one of our questions, the Remarkable People podcast.
Well, so I think that podcasts, first of all, it's much more timely. So if something happens last week, next week's podcast can address that, as opposed to the 1.5 year delay on a book. And with a book, you get one advance in 3 tranches. But with a podcast, you can charge every week, a sponsor or an advertiser forever. And as your podcast gets more successful, you can charge more. Whereas with a book, you're getting a flat $2 or $3 ever. And it just depends on the trajectory of the book. With a podcast, it's much more flexible. You can do many more things. I don't think it's easier to do than a book, because a podcast requires, I think, as much editing as a book, at least the way I do a podcast.
Well, I'd be curious, because everyone has their own style about podcasting, and we have our format. Give us what's your kind of prep look like? Yeah, the flow. How do you think of it?
So, today I interviewed somebody. I did 2 or 3 hours of research on her. Many times the people I'm interviewing have written a book. So I read the book. Sometimes I read the previous book. So 2 books. I probably put in 3 to 5 hours of prep for every guest. So did you put 5 hours of prep into me?
I actually, I would be inching right around that. I'm not going to lie.
Really?
I had a good...
Okay.
I have a different approach. I mean, I bounce all over the place. I want to see everything, like the TED Talks. I don't know. You have like 20 of them, it seems like.
Yeah. So there's that. So, let's say three hours or so for each guest. Then there's the 1 hour interview.
Yeah.
And then we take 2 soundtracks and the sound engineer puts them together and uploads them to Descript. Do you use Descript?
Yeah, we do.
So we upload to Descript. And then I take the first pass edit at Descript because I hate filler words and I hate when people repeat themselves. So I think my job is to make the person look and sound as remarkable as possible, which can often take out. I've had instances where in 1 hour, the guest says, 200 times, right? So I take those out. As opposed to other podcasters who just believe in turning it on and letting people hear exactly, how it went down. I edit. So I spend a couple hours editing and then I give it to the sound designer. And then he goes and he spends another 4 or 5 hours editing, often undoing my edit because I edit too heavily. And then he adds the sound and the music and all that kind of stuff. So now it's quote unquote done. And then, Peg Fitzpatrick takes over and does the marketing on the day of announcement, which is another 5 hours. So there's probably 15 hours per hour of finished product.
It's a masterpiece. I know, like right when I hit play for the very first time, I was listening to the Tim Ferriss podcast, or episode, and you don't get Tim on many other podcasts outside of his. So congrats to you on that one. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And it was amazing to also get him out of his mold, So I definitely recommend everyone listen to that one on your show.
Thank you.
But immediately when I hit play, I was like, this sounds just next level. Like just the quality of the intro. I forget how it goes now, but it just... It doesn't sound like a podcast intro. You actually put some thought into it.
Oh my God. I write out the intro. I write out the outro. Listen, the secret to my success in life is grit and hard work. It's not because, it's, I don't know, natural visionary kind of stuff. So it's like my podcast is probably the antithesis of a Joe Rogan podcast, right?
Sure.
So,
yeah. Well, I think it's the other benefits. I mean, it seems like you show up, the way that I know you've said this many times is getting lucky is better than being smart. You kind of lean into that more. Do you think the podcast is part of that? It's almost like showing up in this person's world consistently.
Yeah, it's, you really, I think it's a skill to figure out what to ask a person. And I kind of believe that I was just born for podcasting because
love it.
I can conduct an interesting conversation with almost anybody. Today, I interviewed a plastic surgeon from Beverly Hills. Like that's not exactly like interviewing Steve Wozniak. You know what I'm saying? So that's a whole different wheelhouse there.
So what's your approach to questioning then? Because I know everyone has a different approach there as well.
Well, my approach to questioning is to just figure out. I don't know how the questions pop into my head. I mean, so I'm interviewing this is a real unusual case. I'm interviewing a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon, and I ask her, like, do you ever turn down cases? Why? And what do you do with people who come in and they have what's called BDD, which is body dysmorphic something? These are people who just kind of addicted to plastic surgery and they think, this 2 centimeter lump on my cheek, everybody's staring at it, but really, people don't even notice it. And so I ask those kinds of questions. I don't ask typical questions in the sense of, what makes you remarkable? Can you tell us, how you became remarkable? What do you feel strongly about? what makes you feel good? How do you, I don't ask questions that sort of look like, oh, so what he did was he read Wikipedia's entry and then he's asking the same questions of everybody.
Yep.
And in fact, one of the things that I like to ask as the very first question, I think the very first question is maybe the most important one, is I always try to ask a question so that the guest truly understands Guy did the research. He really checked it out because he didn't just read the Wikipedia entry. So a few weeks ago, I interviewed Angela Duckworth, the MacArthur Award winner and author of Grit. And the first question I asked her was, is your daughter still taking viola lessons? Because in the book Grit, she talks about how everybody in her family has to do something that's hard, something that requires practice, and it's not purely fun. And her thing was viola. And so, excuse me. And so the first question was about her daughter's viola, which what I'm trying to trigger is I want Angela to say, so, this guy clearly did his research. He read the book. He knew my daughter is taking viola. So that's my secret to starting up an episode.
A subtle little mark there. Yeah, I love that. And I feel like, the momentum before, for us, like it'll be kind of the before banter and trying, any relatability we can get going, and then almost hit the record within that momentum, because you're right. It's the beginning. You gotta get the wheels moving, and see where it heads.
Yeah. Well, and you figure, many of these people, they've been on podcasts hundreds of times, right? So they're all asked the same question, like, how did it feel to win a MacArthur Award? Well, duh. I mean, you'll never know.
No, that's string of questioning.
Do you have any thoughts on this new ClubHouse app that everybody, it seems like Silicon Valley is like real up on it, and it's sort of an extension of podcasting? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in a sense, it's like podcasting, only in real time, with no editing and no stickiness. And so it's kind of podcasting meets attending a conference meets a radio talk show, which, and probably has the worst of all. And so I have jumped on it because I think that for any social media platform, I need to jump on it just in case it takes off. Right. So I don't really know if it will succeed. But if it does succeed, I don't want to be the last one to the party, because the longer you wait, the harder it is to get a following. And also, I don't want some asshole to squat on my name, and then I got to go figure out who at ClubHouse do I convince that I am the Guy Kawasaki, not this 16-year-old kid in Shanghai who said he is the Kawasaki. So get his ass off of it. So, instead of having that battle, I just grabbed the name right away.
Yeah.
So I think it could succeed, but I also thought that about Ello and Meerkat and Periscope, right?
Yeah.
So. And MySpace. So clearly I've been wrong. Right now, I think there's a little too much of marketers talking to marketers, and wannabes talking to wannabes, and has-beens talking to wannabes, and wannabes talking to has-beens. And so many of the conversations was, you got to believe in yourself. And I believed in myself. And so I started a company called Blow Consulting. And then I wrote a book called The Blow Away. And now I have the online Blow Away seminars. So if you look at my Instagram profile, there's a link you can click to get my free offer for the first course of my online course of how to blow away people, The Blow Away. And it's like, on ClubHouse in the first 4 weeks, I've already done $2 million worth of business. And so I'm going to teach you how to rock ClubHouse too, just like me. It's like, you're so full of shit. There's nobody who's done $2 million worth of business on ClubHouse.
And you can't do it either.
And you can't do it either. And
So you're in the same kind of rooms that we've frequented, and same exact thoughts on our side too, because there's Silicon Valley rooms I've noticed, like Naval and Kamal Ravikant were in this one with someone high up in Apple as well. And they were having a panel talking about their perception of ClubHouse and how it's changed now that marketers have entered the room for totally different uses of ClubHouse. Now it's interesting.
I think if ClubHouse is going to succeed, it's not because there's get-rich-quick schemers talking to other get-rich schemers. I think it's because it's going to be a lot of different flowers blooming, like there'll be one about a clubhouse club about Indian cooking, and one about crocheting, and one about yoga, and one about hiking in the Bay Area, and one about, 65 Mustangs, or, whatever it is. So I hope that there's kind of an infinite number of small rooms with highly focused topics, as opposed to, this is the Millionaires Dinner Club, and we have 5,000 listeners here standing by. So tell us, Joe, how did you become so successful with the blow away? And I mean,
hit me up in the DMs on Instagram.
Right. You can only take so much of that bullshit.
It's true. Yeah. I think it's going to go that direction in the way that it's rolling out. It's interesting how they're rolling it out, but yeah, I would hope that it goes all topical in a localized region where it's not massive rooms across the board.
Let's face it. So Twitter's working on Spaces. Facebook is going to do something. So, there's two schools of thought, right? So the pioneer, deeper into it, got the head start, can take on the established company. The other flip side is Twitter already has, 300 million people. And if just 1% of them started using Twitter Spaces, they're equal to Clubhouse on day one.
Yep.
So, I mean, I have 1.5 million followers on Twitter. Probably half of them are bots or dead. and I have, 25,000 on Clubhouse. Well, might be easier for me to convert my Twitter following to a social audio aspect of Twitter than to start all over on Clubhouse. And I don't know the answer to that question yet.
Yeah. Almost every time I'm on Clubhouse too, I feel like there's a room going on with a title that says something to the effect of, "Will Clubhouse kill podcasts?" Right? There seems to be a lot of people that are worried that people are going to stop listening to podcasts and just sort of tune into conversations on Clubhouse now all the time instead. But, I think you actually described with your podcast the perfect reason why podcasts are never going to die. I think, the production quality and the sort of structure that you can create with podcasts is going to continue to differentiate. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's going to impact podcasting?
Well, I mean, honestly, the reason why I'm on Clubhouse is I hope to get more people to listen to my podcast. So Clubhouse is a means to an end, not an end in and of itself. The other kind of room that's always there is how to monetize Clubhouse.
Yep.
And you know what? There's going to be maybe 5 people who can monetize Clubhouse. And like, if you think Trixie and Biff and Joe Blow are going to monetize Clubhouse, man, this I gotta see. I mean, I would be astounded that when you look at someone like, my hero is Marquez Brownlee on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, he's got 30 million followers on YouTube. He has like the best tech reviews and unboxings, right? Well, that's 30 million followers. I mean, that's what it takes. 30 million followers would mean you need everybody on Clubhouse times 10.
It's true. It's a very good point.
This ain't going to happen too soon. So, if you're Trixie and Biff and Joe and you're worried about monetizing Clubhouse, you're delusional. I mean, it's no, it's not to say no one will, but it ain't gonna be that easy.
No, and I want to put everything in the Clubhouse, but like you said, it's showing up, it's claiming your name. I mean, did you get Guy like you did on Facebook? Because I noticed that when I was stalking you. And
well, I just got Guy Kawasaki. As long as I'm just happy people don't think I rich dad poor dad.
I'm sure you get too much of that. We won't even bring that up here. But I mean, to that point, it seems like, because this is how we've been seeing Clubhouse, and we have seen a spike in our downloads on our podcast because at least we think it's correlated to that. We can't.
That's
tell
great.
for sure.
I haven't.
Got to be on there. No.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. But
I should promise people that I know how to make them rich quick if they listen to my podcast.
That's all it takes. Yeah.
Shit, I blew it. I freaking blew it.
We'll teach you. No, we don't do that.
Yeah, right.
But it's showing up in the room, and I feel like that's your whole career for the most part, and maybe even before the career is being in the room and somehow finding yourself into that room. I mean, all the way from back to Apple. I'm kind of curious. I kind of want to hear the story there around how you got in there. I mean, I know the story, but I want to share it with the folks here.
Well,
yeah.
The short story is that I got my job at Apple because of nepotism. It was my college roommate who hired me. So it's not because of my, perfect educational work experience. It's because my buddy hired me. And there's a lesson there, which is be nice to people in college, number one. And number two, it really didn't matter how I got into Apple. What mattered is what I did after I got into Apple, because Steve Jobs wasn't going to keep me around just because my college roommate hired me. He would have fired my ass the next day if I was incompetent. So the lesson is, don't worry about how you get into a company. It's what you do once you get in.
Yeah. So once you're in, what would you mentioned grit. Another thing I want to bring up is you're always smiling, and I absolutely love it. And I know that's a big piece of it. We'll talk about that in a second. But what would you say is what was your first move or multiple moves in the beginning once you got into Apple, knowing you're like, all right, I'm in.
Bro, you're asking me to remember what I did in 1983. I can't remember what I did yesterday.
Yeah, that's true. Me too.
Listen, my job was to convince people to write Macintosh software. And I came from a non-technical background. So first of all, I had to learn some of the technology. And then it was just trial by fire. It was hit the road, Jack. So those are good days. Man. Those are good days. I didn't know what I didn't know.
I think that's the best days, huh? Yeah. You just get thrown into the mix. Amen. You're like, good luck.
Well, amen.
How would you define what an evangelist is? Because when I think of an evangelist, I think of somebody who really loves a product, so they're going to go tell everybody they know about a product. That's kind of evangelist in my mind.
That's pretty good. Basically, evangelist comes from a word meaning bringing the good news. So I brought the good news of Macintosh, making people more creative and productive. I am bringing the good news of Canva, how it will make everybody a better communicator because they can create great graphics. So that's what an evangelist does. Now, a salesperson is primarily concerned with his or her income, quota, and bonus. But an evangelist is concerned also with the well-being of the customer, the opposite person.
So it's interesting. Do you think like looking at influencers now, I'm just thinking of like those Instagram influencers, the ones that are evangelists, or they might call them like,
they're not evangelists. They're hired guns.
Thank you.
Listen, I'll take an extreme example, right? Do you think Matthew McConaughey drives a Lincoln?
Seriously, doubt it.
If we went to his house, do you think we'd see him driving around in a Lincoln? There's no freaking way. You think Shaquille O'Neal uses icy cold hot packs or whatever?
No,
there's no freaking way.
No. Yeah.
I'm telling you though. I use a Macintosh. I'm a brand ambassador for Peace Vans. This is a company that upfits Mercedes mattresses.
Oh yeah.
I really do have one of those. I really use it. I am helping a company called Merge 4. I really love their socks. I think they have the best socks. And so, I don't get involved with stuff that I don't use.
Yeah. So as podcasters, I know Joe and I, one of our big goals as podcasters is to be evangelists, right? So one of the ways that we do that in our business is through affiliate marketing. We talk about the tools that we love and use in our own business, and we tell people about it. We'll get a commission if people buy through our links.
Sure.
What advice would you give people who want to kind of be that career evangelist? Like the thought of being an evangelist for products sounds really, really good. How does somebody like take a career path into evangelizing products?
Well, this is called Guy's Golden Touch, and Guy's Golden Touch is not that whatever I touch turns to gold. Guy's Golden Touch is I touch what's gold.
Brilliant.
So it's easy to evangelize Canva and Macintosh. It's hard to evangelize shit. So don't try to evangelize shit. Well, duh. It sounds like a duhism, but you'd be amazed how many people think I'm going to go evangelize shit, and people are going to love it. It's not going to work. So I think 90% of evangelism is a great product.
Mm-hmm. And you use the product too, because I know in Canva you were a user, and didn't they reach out to you?
They found me.
Yeah. How much better is that? And I loved reading and hearing that about you, because that is how we approach affiliate marketing. We've been doing it for 10 plus years.
Yeah. As long as people understand that you're not pimping a product just to get the affiliate fees, it's because you truly do believe in it, right? That's the key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And people see through it too. I mean, I know our community has reached out to us many times and saying you're approaching this in a different way than most affiliate marketers. I mean, we're in that bucket, I guess. Most people don't take the evangelist approach.
I can hardly wait till you guys endorse the Lincoln Navigator.
I don't know if Lincoln's on my list, but
my favorite is when I see like basketball players or professional athletes promoting McDonald's or something. It's like, your trainer's going to kick your ass if they ever catch you eating that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to go to the smiling thing, and I know it's I don't know, from the outside perspective, it just seems so like, hey, smiling a lot, great. But how have you? I mean, I feel like I tend to do it often. It feels good, but it's because we're sharing, I don't know, good vibes, good feeling, and we're having fun.
If you're having fun and you're getting people to make their lives better by picking the right product and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, what is there to be grumpy about? I do think that, people have different dispositions, and I just happen to be a glass is half full, positive, rising tide floats all boats kind of guy.
Yeah, man.
And, it's not my fault you're a grump.
Have you always had that outlook? I mean, I know you're from Hawaii. You got the good.
That's your problem. Eat shit and die, bro.
Hey, not my problem. I'm good. But you're right. No, you're 100% right. Do you think that? I mean, I feel like that can get you through all the challenges, the grittiness, like you mentioned, getting thrown into the mix and figuring out your way. And it opens doors, I feel like, when other people are stone-walled or stone-faced.
Yeah, I don't like to do business with grumpy people. But, I'd rather do business with I think the first check mark is competence. Second check mark is happy. In business anyway, because I don't want to do business with a happy, incompetent person.
That's on the low left of the graph,
exactly.
Right?
That is the wrong part of the graph. Yes.
On that note, let's talk about high and to the right, because I know that's something that you've had in your TED Talks and you've spoken about quite a bit. Can you explain that for us here?
So this is the famous Guy Kawasaki 2x2 matrix. The vertical axis measures degree of uniqueness or differentiation. The horizontal axis measures value. So I think the key to life is that you are unique and valuable. If you're unique and not valuable, then you're just plain dumb. You own a market that doesn't exist. If you're valuable but not unique, you always have to compete on price because people can get the same thing. And if you're not unique and not valuable, then you just totally suck. And, it's not even worth discussing. So the corner you want to be is when you are unique and valuable. And that could be as a spouse, as an employee, or as a product. And so when the iPod first came out, it was unique and valuable. It's the only way that you could put a device in your pocket with a user interface that a mortal could operate. You could get a wide selection of music legally, inexpensively, and easily. There's no other product that could do that at the time. So it was unique and valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the other option at the time, was it like a Zoom or some wheel thing?
Time and multimedia.
Yeah, whatever the heck was. Yeah. No, how would you go about, do you look at, well, I guess when you're evangelizing companies, are you looking at their company and obviously are using them, but to be a marketable type of tool or a software company, do you kind of go through an audit and make sure they're checking them out?
No, first of all, I don't view the lens. My lens is not, is this a company that I can have a business relationship with as an evangelist? So, I was using Canva and they found me. I didn't find them. Well, I found them as a user, but I didn't find them as let me apply there. So, the order for me is I fall in love with something and it happens that they need an evangelist or an ambassador or an advisor. For example, do you use Descript?
Yes, yeah, we do.
Right? So Descript is something, if they ever ask me, Descript is something I could evangelize because I spend hours and hours in Descript every week. And I don't know how I would do podcasting without Descript. to tell you the truth. Because if I was in GarageBand and I was trying to, remove every freaking time somebody says or or right, my podcast would be different. You would hear all the ums and rights, and because I wouldn't take them out. But with Descript, it has empowered me to do podcast editing that I could have never done before. So do you have direct contact with them?
We don't, but I bet we could figure out how, and maybe
no. I have direct contact. I was just wondering. So there's some things I would like to change. Like we're going really deep into the weeds here, but so do you ever work in the view where the tracks are separated so you can edit one track and not the other?
I have, and I'm just going to be honest, Guy. Jacob on our team is a master at Descript. We're like super surface level. And it's been a while, and I know they're layering so many features on there. It seems like weekly. But describe a little bit what the frustration is.
So one view of Descript, what Descript does is you load up your track. So in this case, there would be probably 3 tracks, right? One from each mic. Yep. And then you load them up, you combine them, and then there's a transcription of all 3 tracks. And then you edit text. So you can remove text, and that would remove the audio. Mm-hmm. So if you see where I say, you select the and you say, ignore that. Mm-hmm. Then when you listen to it again, the is gone. Mm-hmm. And so that's a beautiful thing, as opposed to what, trying to look for that little jag in the sound wave where you're going to eliminate that.
Yep.
So that is a beautiful thing. But there's 2 views where you hear all 3 at once and you edit the text. But then there are times where people are laughing over the other person, and that's when you want to go into the separate view where you can see each track. So if you're laughing while I'm talking, we could edit your track to take the laughter out, so you only hear me talking. Mm-hmm. And so that's another view of the audio in Descript. So I was just wondering if you use that view.
I'm sure Jacob is probably nodding aggressively right now, our editor, because he absolutely loves it. And we used to use Adobe Audition. And I mean, Matt did most of the editing prior to him, but Descript is a complete game changer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Have you ever used the type it out, and it basically creates your voice? It's like an AI.
I did train it, but I'm such a perfectionist that I haven't seen the use case for that. Right. So if I'm doing the intro or the outro, I just record it over and over until I like it. Mm-hmm. As opposed to an engineer types in these words and, use synthesized guide. We never do that.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I think it's good for filler words, or, if something got cut out, maybe in Zoom or something, internet connection.
Yeah.
Could be good there. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to. So this is sort of a fairly dramatic shift, but we did ask some questions of our listeners, and so I wanted to ask
Fire away.
I want to ask some questions from them. So Rick Friesen was asking. So you wrote the art of the start. Yes. Do you still recommend that people start businesses from scratch, or do you encourage people to buy companies and then sort of pivot it more towards your purpose?
Boy, I'm not exactly an expert in that, but my scenario is always starting a company. Now, people have to understand that I'm talking about a tech company, right? So, if you want to be in the dry cleaning business and somebody already has 3 dry cleaners, so you want to boot up fast, God bless you, buy the 3 dry cleaners. Mm-hmm. But, in the software business or in the tech business, why would you want to buy somebody else's piece of shit? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I hope you're an entrepreneur who believes that you can do better than this thing you're going to buy. Now, as companies reach a certain mass, then, why not grab their install base, their technology, their people? But I don't know. It's hard to imagine a scenario where you're going to buy a business before it's almost like, you want to buy a business where the owners don't want to sell.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. If they're willing to sell it, then they know the skeletons and why they don't want it anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense.
That's good perspective. It's always go for the motivations of the seller, or but even better if they're not even willing to sell, somehow get in there.
Yeah.
Well, To that point, because you've said this before, is I wrote the quote down here, is entrepreneurship is a state of mind, not a job title. And I forget exactly where I pulled that from, but it was interesting.
I forget where I said it.
This is the thing. My research is kind of like this big spider web of stuff. So I figured something rings a bell. But
yeah.
You've started companies, but you've also been, in a position hired on at like Canva, for instance. You interviewed, or at least you did interview the founder of Canva, who's your boss.
For my podcast, yes.
Yes, for your podcast, yeah. So it's, I guess, speaking to that quote, entrepreneurship is a state of mind, not a job title, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs listening right here. They might have that state of mind, but they might all think they have to run their own business.
Well, I mean, what I'm trying to get at is that, entrepreneurship is an attitude, and it's a mindset of the glass is half full. The world can be a better place. I can deal with the negativity and doubt. I am not a risk lover, but I am not going to let risk paralyze me. And so this is kind of the mental state of an entrepreneur, whereas some people think of it as a title. And a lot of it is, they're so worried about positioning as a thought leader and, writing white papers and appearing at conferences and, being synonymous with something and positioning themselves as this great CEO and all that. Like, just cut the bullshit. I mean, if you just made a great product, everything else falls into place. But if you're trying to position, do you think Elon Musk or Steve Jobs gets up in the morning saying, Elon, how can I position myself as a thought leader today?
Hell no.
Why don't I make a car? Oh, yeah. Good job, Elon. I refuse to believe that Steve Jobs and Elon Musk ever think about how they position themselves as thought leaders, gurus, or visionaries.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd say that's pretty evident with Elon, just with some of his appearances on Joe Rogan. He wasn't thinking about it too much.
Half the time
there.
he's stoned. Yeah.
His Twitter posts back and forth. Yeah, who knows? Yeah. I guess speaking of Steve Jobs, you having worked for him and right alongside him, like, what would he say about the state of, I guess, everything in digital right now? I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot going on that's different.
I really, I'm a mere mortal. I cannot possibly understand the Steve Jobs operating system. And I would make the case that anybody who tells you that they understand Steve Jobs and could predict what he would do is full of shit. I mean, it's kind of, if you think the Turing test is tough, you try to take the Jobs test. Yeah. I would not know. I don't know. For all I know, he would have loved Donald Trump. Who the hell knows? I don't know.
And the Apple car. Why not?
Yeah. Oh God. Like, the Apple car is such a source of humor for me because like I've obviously I know what it takes to make a personal, well, maybe not obviously, but I do know, kind of what it takes to make a personal computer.
Sure.
And I became a Mercedes-Benz brand ambassador. So I kind of know what it takes to make a car. And a car is about 1,000 times more difficult than a computer because, when a car fails, people die. Mm-hmm. It's not just, hold Command Shift PR and reboot your car. So, and a computer, the worst case of a computer is somebody takes it to a dusty, crowded Starbucks, right?
Yep.
Well, a car, rain, sleet, snow, idiot. I mean,
idiot.
There's so many. Somebody doesn't put oil in. Somebody puts the wrong kind of oil. Somebody puts diesel in a gas engine. I mean, so many things go wrong, and there's so many more factors in a car than a computer. So Apple's going to make a car. This I gotta see.
Well, we all want to see it. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Apple's going to make a car, right? And so I can tell you right now, it's going to be just the world's greatest car for the first 75 miles. and then you got to recharge it. Okay. So that's number one. Now, when you use the charger, you can't use the industry standard or the Tesla supercharger. You got to buy this $2,000 dongle that fits on top of the cable that goes into the industry standards, because Apple had to create a special cable that nobody else uses for their electricity. In fact, they almost considered making their own kind of electricity, which would have been proprietary. But they decided to use industry standard IEEE electricity and just changed the dongle.
Thank you, Apple, for making it simpler.
I think the most ridiculous thing that, we're on Apple computers. I'm actually an Apple fan, but I think the magic mouse that you have to plug into the bottom of the mouse is one of the most ridiculous designs I've ever seen.
To charge it?
Yeah, to charge the mouse.
Yeah. Well, and then, okay, so, I mean, seriously, so would you buy a car from a company that gives you only 2 USB-C ports?
Hell no.
Right. So would you buy a car from a company that took out your SD card reader because they decided nobody had a SD card reader?
Right.
Or would you buy a car that, so maybe there's only one port into the car, but then you can buy an optional dongle in case you want to put other things into your car. I mean, I gotta see. Let me tell you something. I will not be the first early adopter of an Apple car. Trust me, because I know how hard it is to make a car.
Look at Elon. I mean, he's been at it for a while now, and
Well, but Elon supports the argument that one guy can make a car. Now, of course, the windows fly off all the time. And,
sure, they break with steel balls
but,
sometimes.
Yeah, minor details. Yeah, but I mean, still, he Mercedes-Benz is not 200 years old or something, and Tesla is 20 years old or 10 years old, right? So it can be done. But, oh, man, I just...
just a sigh.
I'm not going to be the first. I'm not buying Apple Car 1.0. I guarantee you that.
I think it's probably a smart move. To the point about the whole like command shift, whatever. I remember the Tesla. I had a Tesla for a little bit, and when nothing was working, I had to think of it like a computer, and it really was hold down a couple of buttons. And remember this?
You have to reboot.
It was a reboot, and I was like, "Oh, it's a computer more than a car." Wow, this is a total paradigm shift.
The very first time we ever got in it, we couldn't get the radio to work, and the way to get the radio to work was turn everything off and then turn it back on again, just like a computer.
Sounds familiar,
right? So I don't know.
Maybe somebody who worked for Microsoft designed that part.
Probably. Probably. Oh my God! All right, let's wrap this up so you can get out of here. What's exciting? I mean, what are some interesting things? So Remarkable, I think it's a newer product you're evangelizing on your podcast.
Yeah.
It looks really cool. I mean,
the tablet. Tablet. Yeah. So this is, people think I have friggin' genius because I have the Remarkable People podcast sponsored by the Remarkable tablet, but I'm going to tell you, it's just pure accident.
Yeah.
I came up with the name Remarkable People, and then months later figured out, oh, there's a tablet. What a great person to hit for a sponsorship.
Yeah, man.
And then luckily the Remarkable tablet is so well done. And, I use it all the time. And my use case is I draft my podcast questions using Google Docs, because sometimes I let other people into it and edit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I print it to PDF. Then I put it on my Remarkable. And so during a podcast, I'm actually taking notes on my Remarkable during the podcast for two reasons. One is I'm worried about the clacking noise of Apple's keyboard, right? So I don't want the keyboard noise in it. And secondly, I think when people see you using a tablet and writing, it's a positive. They think, oh my God, Guy must think I'm smart. He's taking notes, right? Whereas if they see you typing, they're thinking, oh, Guy is answering email while I answer. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So I think it improves the attention of your guest if they see that you're taking notes with a pencil-like device, as opposed to pounding away on your keyboard, answering your wife or answering your son, or, ordering Instacart.
There you go.
Butter.
Love Instacart.
Yeah.
But maybe we should upgrade because we do the same thing, taking notes and we do physical paper, but Remarkable is...
Well, my problem with physical paper is that at any given point, I have like 4 legal tablets and, these leather bound things, and they're all scattered around different. And I don't know where I don't know what I wrote in what. And so with the Remarkable, the beauty is it syncs to the cloud. So even if the tablet is stolen or lost or destroyed, I still have it in the cloud.
Yeah.
And it can take your writing and OCR it.
Yep.
I've never done that because I don't need to get digital. I start digital and then I go analog, taking notes on the questions. And then once that I'm done with that, I don't, retranslate the notes. So that's my use case for Remarkable.
I love that use case. Thanks for sharing that, because I think that just solved some things in my mind, because I'm like you. I'm like, notepads everywhere. I love writing things down, but where is that thing? Where'd that go?
Yeah.
But all right, Guy. Well,
okay.
Thank you very much. Everyone listen to Remarkable People podcast and pick up the one of 15 books that Guy has out there. We'll link everything in the show notes. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
You
Good
too.
luck to you all. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.